It's Saturday morning. We had one false start already, and I lost signal. It's still rainy and foggy. I'm surprised we haven't washed away. Some of the counties around here are having floods, but not us, not our county. But it is nasty out there. And today, I think it's supposed to be the last day. We're supposed to have sunshine this morning and sunshine and in the 50s for like 4 or 5 days in a row. And it's not even, after tomorrow night, it's not even going to freeze at night for a few days. That'll give us a little break. Of course, it's got to get cold and stay cold long enough to kill the ticks and the chiggers. But we do the best we can, and we have no control over what the weather does. It's in God's hands. He sends the early and the latter rain. And he says that harvest and seed time, winter and summer, day and night, they're all going to keep going just the same until he decides that they're not going to go the same anymore. Uh, Chapter 21 of Jeremiah, yesterday, we began there, and the first 10 verses, there are two major pronouncements that God makes in judgments, because King Zedekiah, who I can't call good King Zedekiah, but of the ungodly kings, he was the most rational and reasonable of them at times, and he showed kindness to Jeremiah on occasion. And so God will not judge him as harshly as some of the others. Am I saying that he's in heaven? No, I'm not saying that at all. According to what the Bible tells us, I don't believe he's in heaven. But remember, there are degrees, just as there are degrees of reward in heaven, there are degrees of punishment in hell. And I like to look at Zedekiah as one of the least wicked of the ungodly kings, because he does show some smarts and some reverence for God at times. This is one of those times where he's at least sees that the situation is bad enough that he needs to ask Jeremiah to ask God what to do. He remembers a time when his ancestor Hezekiah prayed to God, and God turned away the armies of the Assyrians. And so, unlike Israel, the northern kingdom, Judah did not fall to the Assyrian Empire, but now the successor to the Assyrian Empire, Babylon, is pressing their claim upon Judah. Chapter 21, and this is happening um, 689, maybe 589, 600, not long before the siege, or before the siege is complete, and where Babylon has completely encircled Jerusalem. Chapter 21, the word which came unto Jeremiah from the Lord when King Zedekiah sent unto him Pashur the son of Melchiah and Zephaniah the son of Maaseiah the priest, saying, Inquire, I pray thee, of the Lord for us, because Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon maketh war against us. If so be that the Lord will deal with us according to all his wondrous works, that he, Nebuchadnezzar, may go up from us. In other words, retreat. Verse 3, Then said Jeremiah unto them, Thus shall ye say to Zedekiah, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Behold, I will turn back the weapons of war that are in your hands, wherewith ye fight against the king of Babylon and against the Chaldeans, which besiege you without the walls, and I will assemble them into the midst of the city. I'm going to break down your gates and let them take you over. And I myself will fight against you with an outstretched hand and a strong arm, even in anger, and in fury, and in great wrath. And I will smite the inhabitants of this city, both man and beast, and they shall die of a great pestilence. And afterwards, saith the Lord, I will deliver Zedekiah, the king of Judah, and his servants, and the people, and such as are left of this city, from the pestilence, from the sword, from the famine, into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and into the hand of their enemies, and into the hands of those that seek their life. And he shall smite them with the edge of the sword. He shall not spare them, neither have pity nor mercy. This is what God says to Zedekiah. He's making a judgment on the king and his court and his kingdom. In verse 8, Jeremiah continues with a message to the people. It's an offer of reprieve. It is an offer of salvation. It is an offer of deliverance. 8. And unto this people thou shalt say, Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I set before you the way of life and the way of death. He that abideth in this city shall die by the sword, and by the famine, and by the pestilence. But he that goeth out and falleth to the Chaldeans, in other words, surrender, that besiege you, he that goeth out and falleth to the Chaldeans that besiege you, he shall live, and his life shall be given to him for a prey. If you fight Nebuchadnezzar, I'll kill you, because I'm using Nebuchadnezzar to judge you and to destroy this city, and I will destroy this city. But if you surrender, any individual who surrenders, any group that surrenders, the whole city surrenders, anybody who surrenders, I'll save your life. It sounds like a pretty good deal right now. Not many took him up on it. Verse 10, For I have set my face against this city for evil, and not for good, saith the Lord. You know, Ezekiel is already in Babylon. He's taken off in the first captivity. And God tells Ezekiel that if Job and Noah and Daniel were in Jerusalem, that he would save those 3 men alive and still destroy the city. Imagine that. But he's offering these people their lives. He's going to destroy the city, but he's offered them their lives. He that abideth, and it says, unto this people thou shalt say, Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I set before you the way of life and the way of death. Oh, Kevin, I hope I said good morning. If I didn't, I don't remember, but good morning to you. He that abideth in the city shall die by the sword and by the famine and by the pestilence, but he that goeth out and falleth to the Chaldeans that besiege you, he shall live, and his life shall be unto him for a prey. For I have set my face against this city for evil and not for good, saith the Lord. It shall be given into the hands of the king of Babylon, and he shall burn it with fire. So he's pronounced a judgment on the king and on the kingdom and on the city of Jerusalem. But he has offered parole for anybody who will just surrender to Babylon. Just surrender and I'll let you live. You're not being a coward. I'm ordering you to surrender. I'm your commander. I'm in charge here, God says. And if you'll obey me instead of your generals and your king and go out and surrender, I'll let you live. But you know, that just goes against everything a soldier's taught. It must have been very hard for them. Now we get into a new pronouncement. It is a judgment upon the house of the king. Not just on the king and his kingdom, but upon his house. It says in verse 11, and touching the house of the king of Judah, say, hear ye the word of the Lord, O house of David. Remember, the kings were descendants from the line of David. O house of David, thus saith the Lord, execute judgment in the morning, and deliver him that is spoiled out of the hand of the oppressor. Lest my fury go out like fire and burn, that none can quench it, because of the evil of your doings. In other words, quit acting against my law for your final days. Even though the world is falling apart around you and I'm going to destroy this city, return to my law, execute judgment for my people, and take the spoil out of the hand of the oppressors. All of your princes and all of your rich people and all of your rulers that are grinding the faces of my people and stealing from them so you can give money to Nebuchadnezzar to keep from fighting you. You don't have to do that anymore, because his army has got you almost surrounded. Your prophets lied. You believed them, and now Nebuchadnezzar's armies are here. So since you know what's going to happen to you, treat my people right here at this last time. You could do that at least. That's what God is telling them. You know, it's so saying of mine, it's never a wrong time to do the right thing. Maybe I heard it somewhere. I don't remember. I've had it most of my preaching life. It's never a wrong time to do the right thing. Even though the king must have known that he was going to lose this battle, because he sent to Jeremiah to try to see if God would deliver them. Just as King Zedekiah knew that he must lose this war because he is facing up against the conqueror of the world, Babylon. They had subsumed into themselves the old Assyrian Empire. The only contender left is Egypt, and Egypt is weak from war after war after war. And any rational person, and I believe Zedekiah was at times, and reasonable, because he seems to have a better capacity for thought and reason than his predecessors, Jehoiakim and Jehoiachin. But God is saying, for the little time you got left, treat my people right. It's actually doing Zedekiah a favor by telling him that. You know, if I knew that I was going to die, and God says, yet 3 years, and Jimmy, and you shall die. All that time that I could get up off my sick bed or stay awake, I would be soul winning, and I would be preaching to the church. I would spend all my time consumed with trying to live a holy life and being a soul winner, because I know that I had not much time left, and I would want to do the very best I could before the end. God, through Jeremiah, is giving King Zedekiah, you know how I say, like, good King Josiah and wicked King Jehoiakim, and wicked King Ahab and good King Hezekiah. I'll say this about Zedekiah. He was an okay king. At times. He was a not completely wicked king, just a kind of wicked king. I'm not sure how far these degrees go. But God is trying to reason with Zedekiah through Jeremiah. And if God is trying to reason with a man, that means that God hadn't given up on him yet. Remember the scripture from Isaiah says, "Come, let us reason together. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be white as snow. Come to me, all ye ends of the earth, and be saved." That is the reasonable position. Again, verse 11, and touching the house of the king of Judah, say, hello, good morning, Charlie. They hear ye the word of the Lord. O house of David, thus saith the Lord, execute judgment in the morning and deliver him that is spoiled out of the hand of the oppressor. Lest my fury go out like fire and burn that none can quench it because of the evil of your doings. Behold, I am against thee, O inhabitant of the valley and rock of the plain, saith the Lord, which say, who shall come down against us, or who shall enter our habitations? You see, they're still preaching that the false prophets are still preaching that there's going to be peace. Well, the armies in the land, the Babylonians are in the land, and they're starting to encircle Jerusalem. Zedekiah is still trying to get help from Egypt, which will fail. Good morning, Brother Don. He is still trying to maintain his kingdom. And so he's willing to believe the lying prophets. And I think it's a turn of events when he comes to the true prophet of God. And he says, I know what all these lying bums have been telling me. Jeremiah, what do you say? You're the one in whose mouth God has put his word. So you tell me. Well, the first thing Jeremiah says to his messengers from Zedekiah, of course, he pronounces a judgment on Jeremiah and his kingdom. Then in the second pronouncement, he gives an offer of deliverance to anybody who will surrender to the Chaldeans, and he'll give them their life. He'll save their life. Now he is telling Zedekiah, the descendant of David, O house of David, O king of Judah, the house of the king of Judah, O house of David, say, look, I'm going to wrap up your reign here pretty quick. So for the rest of it, treat my people right. And he says, I'm against thee. And he says, your people say, there are people in the valley, there are people in the mountains, there are people among your officers and your court and your soldiers and your higher ups and your false prophets. And they're saying, who shall come down against us? Well, Zedekiah is pretty smart. He can climb up in the tower, up on the wall, or listen to the reports of his scouts, and he knows that the fenced cities are either fallen or falling. He can look out on the plain there of Jericho and see that there are more campfires out there every night, and they know that they're not his armies. He knows that they are slowly encircling them, and that is only out into Egypt is being closed off and will be closed off at some point. But still, his advisors say, well, who's going to come here and storm Jerusalem? He hadn't got it. The king of Babylon doesn't have enough troops yet. Who's going to enter our habitations? Yeah, we can give up the countryside. We can give up a few outposts. But, the walls of Jerusalem are thick, and we have good soldiers here. And besides, the prophets have been telling us ever since your father, Josiah, good King Josiah, was alive, Our prophets have been prophesying the temple, the temple. God will not destroy Jerusalem because the temple is there. God will not destroy the temple because his name is there. He dwells between the cherubim in the Holy of Holies, above the mercy seat. And then, if that weren't enough, the lying prophets have said ever since the days of Jehoiachin, peace, peace, when there was no peace. You know, I was a kid of the 70s. I got saved during the Jesus Revolution. I was kind of a hippie goat. They call me a hippie goat roper. I was a cowboy, and the girls would ask me why I wore pointed-toed cowboy boots. I said it's so I can kill the cockroaches in the corners. A lot of cockroaches in Houston, especially on the side of town I grew up in. I grew up 5 blocks north of the barrio. 5 blocks north of the ghetto and 5 blocks west of the barrio. So that'll let you know where I was. And all my friends just about were of some shade of brown. I was a cowboy because Daddy was a cowboy, and I sang country music because I was little Jimmy Harris, and they dressed me up in little costumes, and I'd get up there and sing. Oh, he's so cute. But in order to continue in show business, I had to learn how to play my instrument. I had to learn how to be a musician. And I don't know if I ever really made the A team, but there were times when I got to play with the A team. I never made it to the big show, but there were times when I got to be on the big show and be in the big show. Usually standing beside a tall guy in a cowboy hat and standing behind him playing the fiddle. They believe the lies. You'll have peace. And he could see that there was not peace. That's why he sent Jeremiah in the first place. Of course, it's always this. A king is only as strong as his lords. The rich guys with swords and armies who support him. If they withdraw their support, he ain't the king no more. They'll kill him and put somebody else on the throne. So Zedekiah is between a rock and a hard place. On one side, there's God, who is revealing his will through Jeremiah. On the other side is all the prophets, the lying prophets, all the priests who do everything by their means, and the people love to have it so. The rich people, the higher ups, the people who run the temple, the people who run the government, the king's court, all the princes, the people who are related either by marriage or by birth to the house of David, and all of the rich people, the merchants, the landowners who are benefited by the people in power, the oligarchy, you might say. They got all them on one side and God on the other side. The king's in a tight spot. But I always gave Zedekiah credit for asking for the truth. He knew that everybody was lying to him, and he knew the only person who would give him the truth was Jeremiah, because God talked to Jeremiah. Good morning, Doug. Good morning, Steve. So Zedekiah, he gets a gold star for wanting to know the truth. I'm not saying that he was a good king or a godly king, as I've made clear. What I'm saying is that sometimes he made some rational choices. That's about all we can ask in government of modern men today, is that they mainly just leave us alone so we can do what we do, and that they would make some rational choices now and then that would not make the lives of the people so hard. I would pray that now. But all the people are still rebelling against God. They don't believe, because they believe they're lying prophets and priests. They don't believe that Nebuchadnezzar is actually going to completely take over Babylon. they have some reason of history of this, because so far they've had at least 8 years of puppet kings ruling over them and sending money to the world empire to keep them from taking them over. They're almost like saying, well, we're bribing the guy every year, so he hadn't killed us yet. Well, it tells us that in the 8th year of Zedekiah's reign, if we go back to the books of the Kings and Chronicles, that he rebelled against Nebuchadnezzar and would no longer pay the toll. You have to ask why he rebelled if they were happy with the situation up to them. Well, it was because they had raped the people into poverty. I mean, you can only take so much away from a land before it's all gone. As Margaret Thatcher used to say, sooner or later you run out of other people's money. Well, that was what the king was doing, and that's why he rebelled against Nebuchadnezzar. So now we got this war coming. God speaking again. First, he tells Zedekiah for the time he's got left to treat the people right, do the best he can by the people. And he says, I'm against you because you won't do what's best for the people. And then all of your advisors are telling you that everything's going to be okay. Well, who's going to come against us? Who's going to invade us? Who's going to take over our city? It's kind of like, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Zedekiah is smart enough to know what's coming. That's why he's asking Jeremiah to ask God to help. Well, this is a long thing. We're going to be in the message to Zedekiah for another chapter. And it's going to go on quite a ways. There's a lot of stuff in there. O house of, is touching the house of the king of Judah, say, hear ye the word of the Lord, O house of David. Thus saith the Lord, execute judgment in the morning and deliver him that is spoiled out of the hand of the oppressor, lest my fury go out like fire and burn that none can quench it because of the evil of your doings. Behold, I am against thee, talking to Zedekiah, O inhabitant of the valley and rock of the plain, saith the Lord, which say, who shall come down against us, or who shall enter our habitations? Peace, peace, but there is no peace. The temple, God will never destroy the temple. That's what all the smart people and the people, the media of the day, maybe they were the false news, the fake news of their day. They were saying everything's going to be right, hunky-dory. We're getting a visit from the hurdy-gurdy man. It's all going to be sunshine and lollipops and rainbows everywhere. Well, God says no. In verse 14, God concludes this particular word to the house of David, to the house of Zedekiah, the king of Judah. But I will punish you according to the fruit of your doings, saith the Lord. Zedekiah, you got a chance to get on my good side. I've told you how you can save the lives of your people. I told you that back from verse 8 to verse 10. From verse 1 to verse 7, I cursed you because of the way you do. Then offered your people the way out. That same offer is offered to you, Zedekiah. You can escape with your life. Surrender. Surrender to the Chaldeans. Lay down your arms. Take your medicine. I'll save your life. Now, because you're the king, you'll go into captivity, but I'll save your life. But while you're still king, whether you give up to Nebuchadnezzar or not, as long as you're still king, I'm going to judge you on the way you treat my people. You get up tomorrow morning and you start executing proper judgment to my people and protect them from those who oppress them like a shepherd is supposed to do. Remember, God told Judah through Isaiah over 100 years before, how dare you grind the faces of my people? How dare you beat my people to pieces, you thieves? Same thing's happening here. God says, I haven't told you how long you're going to be king. I've given you a chance to surrender. But as long as you are king, treat my people right, or I will judge accordingly. He says in verse 14, I will punish you according to the fruit of your doings, saith the Lord. In other words, I've given you a command to do judgment, to have mercy, and to stop the thievery, to stop the oppression of the people, and to hold the oppressors accountable. Now you do that for the rest of the time that you're in office, and I will judge that to the good. And God says, I will kindle a fire in the forest thereof, and it shall devour all things round about it. The fire being kindled in actuality here, of course, it would be a fire in the soul, a fire of hell, when he wakes up and finds himself in a place called torments, where their worm dieth not, and the fire is not quenched, where he wishes for a drink of water, where he wishes that he could go back, or that Abraham would send somebody back to warn his brothers, his brethren, his friends about this place of hell. But he's talking specifically, the Lord is talking specifically about the war. It's going to kindle a fire. It's going to burn everything. The country is going to be devastated. It's going to be conquered. And it shall devour all things about it. The war is going to chew everything up. I mean, just like Vietnam, man. After the war there, it was a generation before some places even had running water. I mean, we bombed them back into the Stone Ages and still had to leave. You know, once you set something afire, you don't know what it's going to burn. But God knew, and he's trying to tell Zedekiah through Jeremiah. That's one reason we need to watch ourselves, beloved. We need to watch our mouths. We need to watch what we say. We need to watch what we do. We need to watch how we act. There was a guy who was always seemed like he was mad about everything, and my daddy commented on him. And he said, you know, the thing about a blowtorch is it doesn't care what it sets afire. We need to think about that. We will be judged on our conduct, Christian. I'm talking to the saved, born again, blood-bought believer. Will you be judged for your sin? No, Jesus paid for your sin. You were judged for your sin at the cross. You'll never be judged for sin again. But we will be judged for our conduct. And that's what rewards is, or lack of rewards is all about. We will be either rewarded or deprived of reward for our conduct from the time we got saved until the time we die. We will have to give an account. That is why it's important that we watch what we say and watch what we do. And that whatever we do it for the glory of God. and not for the advancement of our own selves or our pet projects. As the King James translator said, there are some men who are not happy with anything except what they hammered out on their own anvil. Don't be one of those. Listen to God. Every time you listen to God and every time you obey God, you tamp down the fire instead of fanning it. God bless you.